And good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's Friday. It's December 22nd. That's right. It's Christmas weekend. And, living in Florida, you kind of miss some of the aesthetic, the Christmas feel, the snow. But so I've heard, John, you guys aren't getting much snow up there either at this time of year.
No, in the last 10 days, we've received 7 inches of rain, which would have been like 7 feet of snow. It had been cold enough, but we were fortunate. We got the remnants of that tropical storm that came up through Florida and South Carolina. So no snow on the ground, no snow in the forecast. In fact, Monday, high temperature of 50 degrees. So it's going to be a very mild Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much like you were down here, because that's about what it is. I mean, it's 59 degrees right now. It's nice. It's a little overcast, from time to time, but it's all right. It's all good. No, I mean, it's crazy to think that it's already the end of December, end of 2023. Mercifully, it's almost done for the Patriots, which is a good thing. 3 more weeks of this, and hopefully this season will turn into a long distant memory. But it's exciting. We're getting down to the wire here. Obviously, we're starting to see some of these potential playoff matchups, and we're looking at teams that are starting to get hot at the right time. Like, I mean, the talk of the town lately is the potential for the LA Rams to go play a playoff game against the Detroit Lions, which, well, you understand the storyline going into that one with Matt Stafford going back to Detroit. That's intriguing. And look, the Rams have been playing pretty good football the last month and a half. I had absolutely zero hope for that team coming into the season. So good on them for playing good football. And you got guys like Puka Nacua who have emerged. I mean, Cooper Kupp has come back from his injury. So a lot of cool stuff. But with Christmas weekend comes the celebration of Festivus, obviously. We do it every year on the show because, of course, we're big Seinfeld nuts. I'm wearing a Festivus T-shirt right now, John. You can't see it. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you've got my place bugged. But I celebrate. And with that, we like to complain about things. And we were talking on the air, or off the air, rather, before. And I was like, well, pretty much every day is Festivus for us. We complain about a lot. But no, this time, I have a couple complaints. I'm going to, the standard, okay, the shootout sucks. It should be gone. Let's get rid of it. That's my standard complaint every single day, but I'm going to reinforce it today here on Festivus. But also, we're going to go to something we talk about quite often. That's quarterbacks and MVP discussions and all that stuff. And like, John, my biggest gripe lately, and I look across social media, and it's not just fans. When I actually have issues with how players are covered, yes, there's fans that overreact, but that's mostly in regard to the actual media, because I couldn't care less what Chiefs season 2018 on Twitter says. You know what I mean? I don't really care. I mean, they're fans, and for all I know, they're just trolling or whatever. But generally, when you hear like this discussion about, and they had it, I believe, last week on either NFL Network or ESPN. It was a big topic on one of the shows. It was like game manager or game changer, and I'm seeing history repeat itself, because we're seeing the coverage of Brock Purdy. He's a late round draft pick, and in no way am I comparing him to Tom Brady, except for the fact that, well, it seems people have already dismissed what he's doing. And in this case, because of the weapons. Now, when you go back and follow the logic and how people have dismissed and downplayed Brady's success, it's a logical just mess. I mean, there's no dots that actually connect. It's you say one thing about him, it's different about another, so on and so forth. So, because we know Tom obviously did not come into the league with the caliber of offensive personnel around him, as did Purdy, as did Patrick Mahomes. So that's not a fair comparison. But we're hearing the same things. It's like, he's just, he's a game manager, or, he doesn't really do anything special. I brought up I can't remember if I said this to you on the air or off the air yesterday, but you'll have to refresh my memory if you remember. I mean, both of our memories aren't great, but there was a play that someone posted on Twitter, and in an attempt to mock Brock Purdy, kind of backfired because it was a play from the Chiefs Patriots game where Patrick Mahomes got pressure off his left side, and he ran outside, completed the pass to the running back. It was a low throw. The running back had to make a nice play, but nonetheless, the play was completed. And the question or the comment posed on the tweet was, kind of mockingly, what would Brock Purdy do in this situation? Implying that how could Brock ever deal with this situation? Well, the easy answer, John, was he would have made the read a lot quicker. And if you look back at the replay, and this is in classic Patrick Mahomes style, he misses the early read, and good for him. He recovered and made the play eventually, but people trying to mock Brock Purdy because he would very much make a read like that and hit the running back early versus, well, the play looks better because eventually Mahomes had to run around and make it harder than what it was. So we're going to give him more credit. That's essentially what's happening, John. It happens with Tom Brady too. People talk about, he can't make the throws Mahomes does or Aaron Rodgers does. And ultimately, John, it comes down to not the throw, but all the nonsense before it. Like, to me, if you're talking about, and this was a classic one, I don't mean to bring up your guy. My intent was not to pile on him, but this is an example that's been fresh in my mind and one that I've gone back at quite a bit. You remember the rollout play he did, the throw to the tight end there on the sideline? Real beautiful throw.
Set up the game-winning field goal against the Cowboys in the divisional round in 2016.
Great throw on the sideline, threw it to a spot where no other defender or no player except his own could have got to it. They claim that Brady and guys like Purdy can't make those throws. Specifically Brady, because I've had this conversation, and my argument is always like, he can absolutely throw to the outside to that spot. He just doesn't have to run around to do it. Now, that's not a knock on Rodgers, but at the same time, that's not necessarily a advantage for Rodgers. So when people say, "Oh, Mahomes is more talented because he does that," well, he created that situation on his own. So don't sit there and try to praise one guy for reading the play quicker, and because they lack this, perceived flashiness on the outside, make them feel like a lesser talent. The way people evaluate quarterbacks, Sean, is so ass backwards and so confusing that it's like there's no excuse me. There's no consistency. It's really about your guy. And there's a lot of people where Patrick Mahomes is their guy. So when they see Brock Purdy, look, at this rate, if Brock Purdy keeps doing what he's doing, he should win the MVP, John. There's no debate about it. Like, I understand Christian McCaffrey. We can go to 1999 Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk for a perfect example. They're going to split the vote, but ultimately it's going to end up going to Brock Purdy, and it's not a bad choice. I wouldn't be upset if it went to Christian McCaffrey, but either or, you have a pretty solid candidate. There's no reason and there's no justification like what we're seeing out there from some people for anyone else right now, because, well, Brock or Christian deserve it. And it's silly to sit there and try to justify why they're successful. Oh, he has Debo. Have you seen him without Debo and Christian McCaffrey? Well, did you see the 49ers last year in the NFC Championship game when Brock Purdy went down? They looked awful,
they didn't
John.
have a backup quarterback. I mean,
but that's what people are trying to say, that like, oh, Brock Purdy's just the guy. Anyone can do it. And like, I don't know what his career is going to be. This may be it. I mean, maybe he's a 1.5 year off flash, and we've seen that before, John. But right now, based on what we've seen, anyone out there trying to downplay or say, oh, he's just a product of this, a product of that, isn't watching him play football. And John, I haven't done the numbers, but it seems more often than not, there's a certain fan base that is trying to push this, and it's one that seems to be very insecure at the moment, and ironically are the same ones that call every other fan base insecure. But the reality of it is, it just seems that they're looking at Brock Purdy leading the league in pretty much every statistical category when it comes to quarterbacking, and somehow think that's not worthy of MVP or he's not really that good. So that's what's driving me nuts right now, John.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to look back at the 3-game losing streak when he didn't have Deebo Samuel, McCaffrey was banged up, he did play, Trent Williams wasn't there, and they're going to say, well, he needs a perfect situation to be at his best, which is the case for a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, there aren't many that can elevate the entire roster, and, maybe Brock Purdy isn't that guy, but in this particular setup in San Francisco, with the talent he has, with the offensive coordinator, and with the head coach who, is fantastic at drawing up plays and running offenses, it works, right? I mean, they
are you talking about Purdy or Mahomes?
Well, I'm talking about Purdy at this point.
Okay, well,
because when we're talking about, again,
yeah, I knew the answer. I know. My bigger point, John, is they didn't have this energy in 2018, and it's the exact same situation. And to me, that's disingenuous, and you're seeing that from the same people that were, screaming to the.
I think, I take the quarterback out of it. I think the weapons in San Francisco are probably better than Kansas City's 2018 weapons. And I'll say that, I mean, okay, so you had Kelsey, Tyreek Hill,
Kareem Hunt,
phenomenal.
You had,
okay, Christian McCaffrey greater than.
Oh, sure, but
really debate.
But Travis Kelce, I mean, Chiefs fans claim he's the greatest tight end of all time. Tyreek Hill, we see as an absolute game changer. So we're talking about a very negligible difference, and throwing Andy Reid, and then throwing the fact that this is a team that had won the division 4 years, or had gone to the playoffs 4 out of the previous 5 years under Andy Reid and Alex Smith.
So it's San Francisco, though.
No, that's what. No, I'm not saying.
With Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, I know. I'm saying like these situations are almost mirror images very of themselves, and the same results are happening, but yet Patrick Mahomes is the second coming of Jesus, and Brock Purdy's just a system quarterback. Because Brock Purdy plays more of a traditional style as opposed to, well, we're going to make a sidearm throw and it looks cool, so therefore it's a more talented throw. When it's no, not really. It's just a different style.
He can beat you with his legs more so than Brock Purdy.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Well, I'm not saying he's not.
The Super Bowl last year was a run.
No, I know, but I'm not. But that doesn't really. When his biggest threat, and actually, you kind of made something I've thought about. It's like, man, certainly this season, the biggest threat of Mahomes right now is his legs, not his arm. But I'm not saying
okay. I mean, it's a good.
It's fine. It's fine, but when you're trying to tell me this is the second coming of the GOAT, well, then I'm going to push back and kind of mock it a bit. But no, I look, I'm not saying Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the MVP is not a indicator of who's the best quarterback in the league. It's just who's had the best season. And right now, Brock Purdy's had the best season. He certainly had a better season than Patrick Mahomes. And
he's got a passer rating at like 122.
Yeah, and the guy's leading in pretty much literally every statistical category. And maybe not literally. I don't want to misuse that word, but almost every statistical category. So, what am I going to say? Does it mean? And this is my argument with I get into with Mahomes fans, and I'm being consistent. They ask me, so what do you think, he's better than Patrick Mahomes? No, I didn't say that. He could go out, win the MVP, win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to go into next season to say Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. The same reason why I didn't say Patrick Mahomes was a better quarterback than Tom Brady after 2018.
Right. No question. I mean, we've had other quarterbacks win MVP. Rich Gannon won an MVP, right? Did anybody think
Cam Newton
Gannon was the best quarterback in football? Cam was kind of an extreme case because of what he did both with his arm and his leg, and he did have a phenomenal year.
Lamar Jackson was unanimous MVP in 2019, exactly. and people were still screaming about Patrick Mahomes this, Patrick Mahomes that, and it's like, okay, be consistent, people.
And Matt Ryan won an MVP, although Matt Ryan was the third pick in the draft, so I don't think it was like a shock that eventually the third pick in the draft can be the MVP. I think pushback is that
go ahead.
A big pushback is the guy was Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, Brady was pick 199. This guy was the last pick in the draft. Yeah. So I think they're
that's what I'm saying.
How the hell did this happen? But it can happen. Joe Montana was a third round pick. Johnny Unitas, I think, was like a 17th round pick who actually started his career with the Steelers. I mean, like, this is what the sport's about. Guys mature a little bit later.
It's surface level analysis, John, and we're seeing it more and more where it's like people can't and again, this is it's silly because we see it all the time, but yet people still act befuddled or dumbfounded that, oh my God, how did this late round pick? Yet we see multiple high round draft picks fail, but yet still there's this a negative connotation that comes with being a late round draft pick, because there's no possible way that he could be this successful. It has to be the system. Like, John, think about how let's go back to Tom Brady. I know I don't mention him often, but let's go back.
Not too often. Maybe that'll be a New Year's resolution.
Not in the last 2 minutes. No, absolutely not. Actually, my resolution is to talk more about Tom Brady. I'm going to get to that next week. But think about how silly. Like, I think hopefully maybe we'll go back and look at this. So the go-to often for certainly guys, people who support Patrick Mahomes, is to look at the offensive numbers, certainly early on in their career, which, again, everyone knocks Brady for his quote unquote defensive help. I mean, that's an argument in and of itself, because I think when people call the Patriots defense historic, I laugh, because it wasn't historic, John. They had really great defenses. They had some pretty good ones, and they had some mediocre to bad ones. Like, historic to me is year in, year out, 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? That's historic. But people call the Patriots defense historic when, again, the reality of it is, look at their offense. That was historic. They, downplay what Brady accomplished, and they list off his defenses, and then they prop up guys like Mahomes and others with their numbers. But yet you look at the situation, like I said, I mean, there's no argument about who had a better offensive staff around them when they came into the league. I mean, that's not debate, John. It's a pretty cut and dry. I mean, Tom Brady didn't play with a Pro Bowl wide receiver until his 108th game. Do you know who that was, John? I bet you do.
108th game, would that be Randy Moss?
That would be correct. So
Randy Moss.
3 Super Bowls, a 10-1 playoff record without the luxury of having a guy that his peers and the writers felt was the best or one of the best in the game at the time. So, all these things that, ironically, are not advantages necessarily for Brady. I mean, they just chalk up the wins as, defense. Defense obviously won these games. Well, no, that's not it. I mean, if you're going to sit there and talk about someone who had advantages, I would think, certainly talking about a quarterback, you'd be talking about his offensive advantage, but it's everything but the offense, John, that people talk about Tom Brady. Now, on the flip side, with Purdy, it's all the offensive weapons. It's this, it's that. And yes, they have a greatly talented team, but John, looking across the league, I mean, who's performing better than Brock Purdy right now, regardless of situation? Like,
I'm not disagreeing with
you.
No,
it's more of a rhetorical question. Yeah. I know you don't.
Yeah, no, he's been phenomenal. I mean, look, I think the guy maybe had 1.5 bad games, and even his bad games haven't been disastrous. It's not like he's
performed well against the good teams too.
He has,
and that's
absolutely.
important.
I mean, against Dallas, against Philadelphia, took care of business against them. We'll see on Christmas night when he faces what might be the best defensive football, the Ravens, which might be a Super Bowl preview. So he's
well. If you listen to me at the beginning of the season, I would have told you that.
You are correct, sir. I mean, I had Cincinnati and Dallas. Could still happen.
Well, you kind of got to think about Ohio. I don't know what it is.
I do.
You just I don't know. It's weird. I mean, big Drew Carey fan, right?
I don't think LeBron. No, LeBron. I don't think LeBron. Right. LeBron was a Browns fan, then he was a Cowboys fan, and now he's a Rams fan. He changes a little bit.
Yeah, he's very flexible. Let's put it that way.
Malleable.
Yeah, exactly. Lifelong Yankees fan there. Speaking of, before we get to our picks, we're going to jump into our picks here in a second. I think it's hilarious that Shohei Ohtani is getting like the welcome to LA treatment. Kind of speaks to how little people care about the Angels in that city. Like, you see him at the Rams game, like getting a jersey, like, welcome to LA. Have you tried this, that, or the other? It's like, I've lived here for 6 years,
but then again, the same house probably. I mean, I don't know where it was in relation to where the Angels play and the Dodgers play. But people travel in Southern California, right? Like an hour and 20-minute car ride is kind of standard.
Well, it's like, if I was shy, I'd move like one block over or something like that. Something very like, I don't know.
Afford it.
Yeah, well, maybe in 10 years he's getting the layaway
That's
plan.
true. That's right.
And certainly you wonder why, because they just apparently inked the best pitcher to come out of Japan just yesterday.
Yeah, Yamamoto.
So,
It's a 12-year, $325 million deal, and you put $50 million on the posting fee. So the Dodgers have just committed $1 billion to two players.
Well, look, and
pretty good,
and good for them. I'm not I'm not one of the people that I will be rooting for them to lose. Absolutely. Like, well, first of all, I have no love lost for the Dodgers. Why do I care about the Dodgers? You know what I mean? So it's not like
I'm a Giants fan, so it's institutionalized.
Exactly.
For me to root against them.
But this is, I guess, the problem with baseball and why it's never really gonna, I think, come to the level of where football is right now, because the competitive imbalance. And I know it doesn't necessarily, I mean, look, it's not that it makes the Dodgers better, because we've seen that. We've seen a team with a payroll, the equivalent of one of their players, win, you know what I mean? Or at least, move in advance. But it's just the inability for other teams to ever kind of have these type of superstars, and how to spread these guys out, because you hear about these big stars coming over, like these big free agents, and it's always the same: Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Mets. I mean, it's the same thing over and over again, and there's 25 other franchises.
Right.
And
I mean, you don't see even the Mariners will dip into it every now and then, but they can't sustain that. Texas actually stepped up and signed some talented players, built their middle infield in free agency, and they won a World Series. So, they're showing that can be done. Depends if the owners are committed to doing that. The Red Sox used to do that. They no longer do that. They're like 12th to 14th in payroll, and I don't think they're going to move from that.
Yeah. So either way, but all right, let's give our picks for the weekend, because that's what we do every Friday. So we will start in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers will be hosting the Bengals. I'm going to go with the Bengals in this one. Divisional matchup. There's always a lot of bad blood between these two teams, but Steelers coming off a pretty disappointing loss, and Cincinnati, well, they're playing, I guess, kind of carefree at this point with Jake Browning. So I'll take the Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals are 8-6, 3-0 since Browning took over. They're not going to have Jamar Chase, and the Steelers are going to be starting Rudolph, which is perfect for Christmas time. So I'll go with Cincinnati, though. I think Cincinnati finds a way to win. They've been finding ways to win the last month.
Yeah, how about that, Rudolph? I like that. So Buffalo at the Chargers. I like Buffalo in this. I mean, again, we're talking about teams that, maybe this is the year that the team that's flying under the radar, that gets hot at the right time, goes on and wins a Super Bowl. Well, number one candidate for me to do that would be the Buffalo Bills, because they're winning some pretty big games against some good teams. The Chargers are not one of those good teams. And that also kind of presents a challenge in and of itself, because Buffalo's been playing at such a high against these good teams. You hope they don't kind of underestimate the Chargers and kind of have a, what do they call a trap game? Not necessarily trap game, but something where they completely underperform. I like Buffalo in this one. The Chargers, to me, I just no. I mean, I don't think they're going to get the same post-firing boost that the Raiders did. And I think playing against Buffalo is that's a tall task. So I like the Bills in this one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they should name the score. It might be a lower scoring game than anticipated. Sometimes when a team gives up 63, the next week they're a little bit buttoned up on defense. They still have some players there. But Buffalo, this has got to be their game. They can't slip up here, or they're really playing into the narrative that people have that you can't trust the Buffalo Bills.
Right. And again, I mean, it's a fair narrative, because it's like every time they kind of suck you in and then they disappoint, and it's like, why did I'm questioning it right now. It's like, why am I believing in the Bills right now? But again, can't argue with who they've beaten, how they've won, and everything like that. So, all right, Indy at Atlanta. I'll take the Colts. flip a coin, I guess, right? I mean, I think the Colts are a little bit better. Um, yeah.
Yeah, this is a weird game. I mean, Indy's 8-6 somehow.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
with
straight. Yeah, that's
Gardner
what I'm
Minshew
saying.
at
It's like,
quarterback.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
But
a team that really found ways to win. Atlanta's kind of just with their 6-8. They're trying to stay in the race in the South. I'll go with Indianapolis. Yeah, they just seem to be a little more consistent than the Atlanta Falcons.
Cleveland at Houston. I'm gonna go with the Browns. I mean, Joe Flacco, I think, is a good quarterback for that Browns team. It brings some stability um, to that position. I don't know what's happening with Stroud. I don't know how healthy he is or going to be, but this is going to be a tough one for Houston if he's not under center. I'll take Cleveland.
Yeah, that defense again. Oftentimes, when you've got to figure out what's going to happen in a game, give me the best unit on the field. It should
Yeah.
be the Browns defense. I'll take Cleveland as well.
All right, Green Bay at Carolina. I'll take Green Bay. I mean, look, I would love to see Carolina lose again because obviously, if you want to see the Patriots get the number 1 overall pick, you need to see Carolina lose. But Green Bay is just a better team. I think they'll have a pretty solid game on the road.
I'm going to go with the Panthers in an upset, and that
Ooh.
can set up the Patriots to have the first overall pick, which would be a good thing. But the Panthers, their defense hasn't been that terrible. They've got some talent there. Some of the offense has been a real problem. But I think Green Bay is starting to lose contact with Minnesota and obviously Detroit in their division. So I'm going to call for the upset of Carolina over Green Bay.
All right, Washington at the Jets. I'll take Washington. We spent pretty much an entire episode yesterday railing on the Jets, so I'm not going to pick them for the rest of the season. So I'll take Washington.
I'll take the Jets. They're at home. They were god awful last week against the Dolphins. A lot of turnovers. If they clean that up, I think they got a chance. Washington's been on a horrible streak. They basically threw the towel in when they traded the 2 best defensive players back at the trade deadline. So I'll take the Jets at home, but this is talk about an ugly game. Boy.
Yeah, it's not going to be. It's going to be a sight for sore eyes. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Detroit at Minnesota. I like the Lions here. I mean, Minnesota. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I mean, Minnesota's at home. It's a divisional round matchup. You can always kind of count on those to be a little tricky or whatever. I like Detroit though in this one, and you want to see them down the stretch really string together a few really good wins if you're going to really kind of buy into the Lions moving forward. So, give me the Lions.
Yeah, I think Detroit righted the ship last week with a real impressive win over the Broncos. They're right there to be the number 2 seed in the conference. And with that, you play the last team to get in the playoffs in the wild card round, and then you host the divisional round game, which is something the Lions haven't done since 1991. I'm hoping it's Detroit hosting Dallas or vice versa. Those 2 teams playing each other in the divisional round. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, Detroit on Sunday should be fine against Minnesota. Give me the Lions.
All right, next we have Jacksonville at Tampa Bay. The Bucks, one of the more surprising teams. I mean, look, it's it's a product of playing in the NFC South. They're going to have a few extra opportunities, but give credit where credit's due. They've had, they've kind of gone as Baker Mayfield has gone. And this was kind of the thing going into the season. I didn't think he was going to have as many highs as he's had. So, like I said, give credit where credit's due. And I do like actually Tampa Bay in this one against Jacksonville because I am just again I'm still very down on Jacksonville, down on Trevor Lawrence, down on the whole northeast region of Florida. Actually, it's kind of I don't like going up there anyways. Actually, I don't think I've been up there since I moved. There's no reason for me to go up there, but I like Tampa Bay in this one.
I'll take Jacksonville. Again, this is a flip of coin game. And look, Baker Mayfield, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's earning himself money. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Maybe he stays in Tampa and is their quarterback for a year or 2 going forward. Or, maybe a couple of teams are interested in him. He's played really well this year, but I'm going to take Jacksonville. Again, this is just a weird game. Jacksonville's really slipped up after a good start. I think they'll right the ship on Sunday. Give me Jacksonville.
Yep. Arizona at Chicago. Arizona.
Ooh.
That's it. That's all I got.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty simple. Give me Chicago because there's always a chance of inclement weather, and Arizona does not travel well to cold weather sites. And Chicago's been playing pretty competitively now for the last month and a half. They came close to beating Detroit at Detroit. and then 2 weeks later they kind of manhandled them in Chicago. I'll take the Bears. They're playing good football right now.
Next, this was the hardest game to pick. It was just we kind of talked about it a little because we think these two teams are kind of mirror images of themselves. I think there's something combined 1-12 against teams with a record over 500, and that's Dallas at Miami. And I literally stared at this and I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. And ultimately, I landed on Miami because they're at home, and I think their offense is more sustainable against that. It feels like, if anything, the Miami offense is going to have a good day. So I went with I went with the Dolphins, but again, this is battle of the blah. Like, both these teams are like, this is a team. This is like a house of cards for both these teams, John. Like, on the surface, I mean, their surface level view of these teams are phenomenal, but it doesn't take too long to crack that shell, and then all of a sudden you see all the issues that it's having. I'll take Miami, but like I said, this is a really weird game to pick because I just don't know which teams. Like how do I pick which team's actually going to show up against a good team? But then again, are either of these teams really that good? So I don't know.
They have good records.
Yeah.
You go with Miami. Yeah, they have good records. They're 10-4, but like you said, 1-12 against teams with a winning record. And the only team of these two that beat a team with a winning record, Dallas beating Philadelphia, which has been struggling over the last. I sounded like Joe Namath there. Yeah. They've been struggling the last month. I'll take Dallas in this game. I think their defense is just better than Miami, so maybe that'll be the thing that puts them over the top. But yeah, these two teams are so much alike. They feel like fake Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they're 10-4. That's darn good record, since only two teams in the league have a better record than these two teams, and that's San Francisco and Baltimore at 11-3. But it just feels like kind of a flimsy 10-4. But I'll take the Cowboys.
All right, next we have the Patriots heading to Denver to play the Broncos. I got the Broncos in this one. I mean, it might be a fairly close matchup, low scoring, but yeah, I'll take the Broncos.
Yeah, I'll take the Broncos too. I mean, the Patriots, even when they were the best team in football or close to it, oftentimes struggled in Denver. Denver coming off a pounding at the hands of the Lions. Sometimes you'll see teams have an awful week and then they bounce back and have a good week. I think Denver's still in playoff contention, good enough to beat the Patriots on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, if only they could play just one half of football, the first half, I think the Patriots would be all right with Bailey Zappi. Raiders at Kansas City. I went with the Chiefs in this one. I think it'll be a close one. I think if this were a little bit closer to the coaching change, maybe you see a bit of an upset. But the Raiders are kind of the Chiefs Bills. It doesn't, like, the Raiders could very well win this game and it wouldn't necessarily be surprising. But I think at the end of the day, Kansas City's going to come away with the win at home.
Yeah, 1:00 Christmas Day. I'll go with the Chiefs. They can't really mess around here because they're trying to get some sort of seeding in the AFC. If they run the table, there's a chance they're the 2 seed and Baltimore's the 1 seed. So that bodes well for them having a couple of home playoff games. So I think Kansas City will be just enough to beat the Raiders on Monday.
All right, Giants at the Eagles. I like the Eagles in this one because, well, it's the Eagles and it's the Giants. I know the Eagles have struggled, but it's the Giants, John. And I'm sorry, Tommy DeVito. I look, he's filing trademarks, and I guess strike while the iron's hot. But I get the feeling this is going to be one of those afterthought storylines that not too many people are going to be talking about too far. You know what I mean? Don't you get that feeling that this bubble might be bursting pretty quickly on Tommy DeVito here? But
it's Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. Lin, right? There you go, Linsanity, just at a kind of a much lower degree. I mean, things are so low for the Giants that this was enough to consider it Linsanity. But yeah, I'll take the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, the Eagles without question. Someone put out on Twitter that every team should have a third string quarterback who fits a regional like stereotype, right? So obviously the Giants, Northern Jersey, you got the Italian guy that lives at home that eats chicken cutlets. Like, for the Patriots, you have Sully from South Boston with a thick accent who, may have known Whitey Bulger and his family. So you have him as the third string quarterback.
The Buccaneers have
LA,
Florida
you got, like,
man.
the surfer dude. And yeah, exactly. So,
I like
Chicago,
that.
you got a guy who sounds like that guy. Yeah, just a third string quarterback, regional stereotype in Tommy DeVito. Certainly that guy for the Giants. It's perfect. The Eagles.
That's actually hilarious. That's hilarious. Actually,
yeah, I like that.
I think we should come up of a roster of stereotypes for each quarterback.
What would it be like the Florida teams? Like, you'd have like this cool guy in Miami, right?
Yeah, here would be kind of like your Gator, typical Florida man. I mean, when you hear stories about Florida guy, it's usually from someone from like Central Florida. Which pretty much we're not technically like where I am. We're technically south. It's weird. We're like kind of sort of Southwest Florida, but sort of central. It's weird. Anyways, but whenever you hear, a Florida man does this or whatever, it's generally from the middle section of it. Sometimes the Panhandle. Yeah. You get a little bit more south. It kind of turns into a northeast. Miami is like kind of like a northern city type thing, so it's a little bit different.
Flipped, right? The most southern part of the state happens to be in the north of the state.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
and then it kind of goes downward. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the opposite of you do.
Exactly. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what what could come up with what we could come up with. So maybe we'll do that like New Year's Eve or something, or whatever day that falls on next week or something like that to close out the year. So all right, last but not least, San Francisco hosting Baltimore, a potential Super Bowl preview, Super Bowl rematch, and my pick for the Super Bowl. In this particular game, I'm going to go with San Francisco at home. For all the things we kind of talked about to start the show, they're just playing great football, and it's hard to pick against them. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I like San Francisco in this one.
Yeah, they're at home. They're healthy. They just have so many ways to beat you. Both teams have really good defenses. These look like the two most complete teams in football. It wouldn't shock us if they're playing each other in early February in the Super Bowl. And I just think that San Francisco has an ability to jump on teams. Like, they get the possession, score a touchdown, get a field goal, all of a sudden it's 10-0. And I don't know, Baltimore is a really good team. I don't know if they're built to come from behind.
Right.
Whereas I think San Francisco could do a little bit more of that because it's a bit more of a passing attack. So I'll take San Francisco in this one, but this should be the game of the weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope it is. Actually, it's going to be it's going to be Washington and the Jets. The most intriguing game ever.
Yep.
Yeah, somehow. But all right, that's going to do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We wish you a very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Happy Festivus. That's tomorrow, everyone. So get your polls out. Just have a great weekend. Enjoy football, and we will talk to you potentially on Monday. We haven't discussed that. Maybe Tuesday. We'll figure it out. So everyone, have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.